Hello, everybody. Hello from Warsaw at the last panel of the Global Fashion Conference. This panel will be dedicated to the challenges of the fashion education in nowadays, mainly in context of sustainability, but I think that not only in this context. I'm an honor to introduce my guest, global guest from all over the world, Isabel Martins Moreira from Brazil, Giovanni Conti from Italy, from Milano, Lynda Grose from United States of America, from San Francisco, and Koshalpreet Kaur from Delhi, from India. My name is Janusz Noniewicz. I'm talking from Warsaw, from Fine Arts Academy in Warsaw, and I will be chair of this panel. Because we are from the different part of the world, and I think that we have a different experiences with fashion education and with sustainability, with the problem of sustainability on the different levels, I think. We start from the short presentation of every school and every guest who are represented by our participant. They will talk about their own experience and situation in this countries and in the schools. So let me make okay, no. So let's start. Yeah, let's start from the just into the point. So I ask maybe Lynda Grose from California College of Arts in San Francisco. Hello, Lynda.
So my name is Lynda Grose, and I'm professor in the BFA Fashion Design and Critical Studies programs at California College of the Arts. And we were provided with some challenges for today, some provocations. So being a good student, I'm going to use those as a framework while also posing some of the challenges that I see in fashion education, and specifically at California College of the Arts, how we address those. So these examples are based on iterative teaching over several decades, but they're not at all comprehensive, partly because of the length of the presentation, and also partly because, of course, the work is continuously unfolding. So a little bit of context. California College of the Arts is located in San Francisco, California. We're a small program of about 100 students in a school of approximately 2,000. Our demographic is around 40% Chinese students around the Pacific Rim of America. And it includes students who were first in their family to attend college from the United States and also the Americas. Fashion in San Francisco tends to be lifestyle and innovation based rather than visual and trend based, to give you a sense of who we are. So I'd like to begin with Patagonia's statement from their annual B Corporation report of 2019, of course, the globally recognized outdoor company. We're working towards becoming a carbon neutral company. Even as we make significant advances, our footprint is increasing due to our growth in sales. And I do this to really settle the fact, really, that fashion industry's dependency on growth in sales is the biggest hurdle to achieving sustainability. And this really strikes at the very core of the fashion business and at the core of design education for this type of business. So this realization can make all of us, including our students, question what on earth are we doing being in fashion at all? This curve describes the state that individuals go through as they become informed about the root causes of unsustainability. Students usually join an undergraduate fashion design course because they just love fashion, and their knowledge of sustainable fashion itself is much more informed by company marketing, sometimes activist campaigns, but very few students have an in-depth working knowledge of fashion industry practices and impacts. And as they become more knowledgeable, let's say they start with a very idealistic mindset. So, they're wanting to, say, change the world one hemp dress at a time. And they come in with this sort of optimism. And as they learn about the real issues in the fashion industry, they can move into a state of informed pessimism, otherwise known, we like to call it the valley of death. So our job as educators is to support students through these stages and into a state of informed optimism. And ultimately, going through that valley of death generates much more grounded and relevant work than being in a more idealistic state. So one of the challenges that was posed to us was, should we teach students how to make a beautiful dress or how to design a new society, enable access to various goods for the widest possible group? And of course, I would say that we need to do both by grounding student learning in experiential and bodily ways, doing what they love, which is fashion design, and by expanding the outcomes beyond material products to fashion experiences and the social domains of fashion. So one of the ways that we do this, for example, is through the Sustainable Cotton Project Farm Tours. California is one of the big cotton growing states in the US, and we bring students into those California cotton fields in the Central Valley of California to meet directly with farmers and scientists, to understand firsthand the challenges of making changes in an industrialized farming system. And they experience that scale of a highly manipulated landscape, and they witness the power of human technologies and the massive mobilization of natural resources. And hearing farmers and scientists work together on ideas for change, all of these visceral experiences stay with the students back in the classroom and in future professional circumstances. They remember that scale and volume of that extractive economy. They feel the heat in the arid Central Valley of California. And they understand then that we're moving into a cotton-constrained world as climate change increases droughts and floods, which affect the harvest of cotton. And they also recognize their own creative process in those larger systems at work, a process that's not dissimilar from the creativity between the farmers and scientists. So bringing this experience into the studio form in a cotton-constrained world, remember, undergraduate students are most focused on acquiring making skills to express their ideas through individual design projects and collections. Systems design, which is so critical to sustainability, is not traditionally part of an undergraduate education, but it can be. This tattooed denim concept came from a brief for asking students to deploy hand, machine, and digital treatments to textiles. Chu and Yifan developed a one-of-a-kind project for recycling denim using laser etching and machine stitching. It was a nice piece aesthetically, but not groundbreaking. But developing a system of replication took the project to another level of potential, as Chu and Yifan devised ways for the garments to receive layers of lasered ornamentation over time. One-of-a-kind recycling evolved into a concept for emergent service-based business systems, chain stitching the inseams for easy flattening, marking the laser bed to line up each layer of ornamentation, thinking through the temporal aspects of layered patterning, all changed the norms in constructing, producing, and surface patterning a garment. But is this design? Asked Yifan during one of our mentoring sessions. Her understanding about the expanding parameters of fashion design matured through this experimental design work. So another provocation that we were given was how to change an understanding of human freedom, justice, and morality. It's really quite a grand goal. But again, we approach the challenge through experiential learning and a simple exercise. Journeys overseas with the NGO Remake enable students to talk directly with garment workers this time, to witness their working conditions and their living conditions firsthand, and to hear about their life aspirations. So you see that on the right in Sri Lanka on the screen. Upon return, students share their insights through presentations and panel discussions, which helps them to process and make sense of their experience, as well as inspiring other classmates. This bodily activity brings meaning to later conversations about worker-centric pricing. We ask students to break down a living wage for a garment worker by capturing their necessities for food, rent, bus fare, school supplies, childcare, etc. Very, very modest needs that they might have. And then use that information to calculate a living wage. By doing this, students are able to re-see company marketing and unpack rhetoric. Everlane on the right, for example, known for its radical transparency, lists their labour costs for each garment, but does not reveal the living wage within the country of manufacture. By focusing pricing on the well-being of those who make our clothes, we help the students to spot structural problems that maintain business as usual and identify misinformation and greenwashing, and to think through more just pricing structures. To this next provocation, can we have an impact on the economy and climate through fashion education? I, of course, would say yes. We used to find that when CCA students graduated, they were often overqualified in sustainability knowledge for entry-level jobs in a traditional fashion company. And we viewed these graduates as like sort of Trojan horses who eventually moved into higher level positions where they could then deploy their knowledge and values. But in more recent years, we see new categories, new types of businesses emerging. And these can be within the fashion industry or on the peripheries of the fashion industry and beyond the fashion industry. In these spaces, new graduates have the languages and the skills and the references to engage immediately. So just quickly here, a couple of examples. We have James Zormier at Nike Innovation on the left-hand side, who was part of the Space Hippie design team, which is the smallest carbon footprint in a product, but of course still exists within a larger business that's a growth business model. But he's making his way. It's more of a traditional position for a designer. Next, Annie is strategic director at Eon, which is a digital ID company, which is enabling the tracking and sorting of clothing and the infrastructure that doesn't yet exist for circularity. Sierra Redding works independently with farmers and designers, contributing a range of skills that she's built, from natural dyeing to styling and communications. And then Corinna Michael on the right-hand side, she's at Girl Effect, working in countries like Rwanda and Tanzania to create social connections between teenage girls. And this work is way beyond the material product. It's more about the long-term education and population issues, which we know are so critical with declining resources. So what we're finding is the earlier generation, like Annie, for example, is now hiring the next generation, and that those ecologies of fashion practices are expanding. Students, they find their way with a solid set of values as an internal compass. So finally, just to close to this provocation, how to ensure a shared view of the world of fashion in art and science and politics. I would say that a priority for me is aligning ourselves with the visions and ideas of new economists, ecologists, and anthropologists, and then bridging their work into the studio by working with our students on experimental ideas for degrowth and post-growth futures. By bending away from the old ways of thinking and bending away from the companies that perpetuate that thinking, and then by linking arms with each other as we are doing today. our students and we as educators, I feel very strongly, are not just prototyping new objects. We're prototyping new ways of thinking and new futures and new elastic ways of thinking, which, by the way, are highly sought after in the entry-level positions in companies who understand the need for systemic change. So I'll just end with one of the mantras of California College of the Arts, and it's in our marketing, but I'm using it here just to re-ink my main message, which is that all of us are involved in building this future in the making. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to answering some questions later with the panel.
Thank you very much. Lynda put me in the very difficult position because she used all the questions I have prepared for our panel. So, but okay, we'll find some. I
thought it was for preparing.
Anyway. Thanks God, we have 3 more persons, and maybe from the presentation I find the new ones. So. Isabel Martins Moreira from Brazil, could you show your presentation and tell a few words about situation in Brazil?
Yes, my name is Isabel, and I'm a teacher, a professor at PUC-Rio, which is the Catholic University in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And we are actually part of the design department. We don't have a fashion department. So this is our campus in Rio de Janeiro. We have like 25 undergraduate courses and 23 graduate courses that goes technology, biology, all different subjects, which is very interesting because the students have an opportunity to, if you're doing textiles, for instance, you can go into chemistry and have classes in chemistry and try to learn about different aspects of all the textile business. And then we, in the arts and design department, which is the fashion department is located on, we have now 995 undergraduate design students and 97 graduate students. I'm very excited actually because we are just launching a new curriculum. It will start next year, the first term of next year. And we have now a main design course with all the fundamentals of design. And then after, on their 5th period, they will decide which emphasis they want to take. And then you have all these 6 emphases. One of them is environmental, social, and human sustainability, because we see the sustainability as a complex situation. And and how did we get to these 6 emphases? And we have body and fashion, of course, and we based on what our students were developing on their final projects, we realized which were the most important questions to act upon. And so I'm going to list a couple of new classes we have to offer and showing like student work that relate to that class. But keep in mind that project it's a main design project is a main it's main importance for the course, and those are classes that can give them opportunities to experiment before getting to the final project. So, before a little bit about body and fashion, why did we include body on this in this title? We see body as a field where individual and group subjectivities are created and expressed. We see fashion as an agent in favor of building a plural and equitable society. And we see the designer as a professional that holds sustainable and ethical values and practice. So this is kind of what we are talking about. And then we have a few classes, like I said. We have the one that is more borderline with art, fashion, and the contemporary body, where the student is going to experiment a lot with aesthetics. I did a little bit of translation, but I'm not going to read everything. It's going to become too long. And the second one I bring is textiles and the cultural body. And here's an example of a student that worked with like traditional, it's a traditional way of producing textile in Brazil, on the northeast part of Brazil. But we are very concerned also on this subject, on cultural appropriation, how to work with, foreign questions of building textiles and fashion, but also not becoming a cultural appropriation. This is more focused on the industry. You're going to see positioning of your brand and your clothes and the groups and who's going to wear the clothes. We call it urban body cartographies. It's been very difficult to translate these titles, but I think I did a decent job. And we have fashion, corporate reality, and transgressions, where the student gonna go like beyond what's like expected for the fashion industry. So we have carnival, counterculture, sexuality, eroticism, all of that will be discussed on this particular subject. Image and narrative, we've been, we have fashion in PUC since 2007, and image has been always important, but now we have a special class for that, so they can, think of like what they're gonna put out there and communicate in terms of their concepts. Body and technology, we've had it for a while, but we'd also feel like the best example I could bring, but we think we have to go even further in that relationship, because the technology is being introduced to the body more and more. So how we're going to deal with that, this little cyborg thing going on. Print design, of course, we have like graphics arts in the course too. So it's like a point of connection between graphic arts and fashion. Costume design, it's also part of the interest of our students. We have a lot of projects developed on this way, so we made it like a statement on that too. Also working with like handmade textiles, it's, this student work with that. And last one that I brought here, eco design, we have like natural, and it's I say that the student used an Indian name, which is I wouldn't know how to pronounce it, so I'm sorry, Koshalpreet, but it's like using natural dyes to produce. And also we have jewelry design, we have accessories design, we have, and because we work on like a different labs, we have students have access to those labs, so they can really go into different materials and make many different experiences, from innovation technology to the most hands-on dyeing with natural materials. So I just wanted to show, I didn't work on answering those provocations, but I tried to bring like how we are structuring our curriculum and to prepare the student for this new world and be responsible and act in favor of sustainability in all levels. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So maybe that's time for Koshalpreet Kaur from Delhi, from India. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Koshalpreet from GD Goenka University, and we have a fashion design program here. Yes, so we'll be talking about challenges in the fashion education, and my presentation is mainly based on the challenges which we are facing in the curriculum which we are teaching to the students. What is the delivery? What are the areas which we are covering, and how to overcome those challenges? So this is a little 60-second video about my university.
What is a universe? It is a single platform that gives us freedom to experience the infinity. Where schools are gateways, where qualifications are springboards, where being fashionable is applauded, where real-time career projections is the law, where education is sought and not taught, where a career decision is the password to explore the unknown, where one choice inspires the hidden talent, where Michelangelos are born in an instant, where ambitions triumph every day. Universe, it is in you. It is you. GD Goenka University. From foundation to flight.
So we have 10 schools which are offering engineering, management, hospitality, medical allied sciences, design, architecture. And as part of the 10 schools, School of Fashion and Design, we are offering undergraduate and postgraduate programs in fashion, interior, product, communication, and fine arts. So we have also the PhD programs for fashion and interior design, which the students have done a good research on. So this was just a little about my institute. And coming on to the topic for today, as we all know, and we are a little different category, the design educators, than the classical academic subjects. So we are not a classical academic subjects. It's a pluralistic mishmash of convergent and overlapping subjects and practices that makes us different in the academic field, and that makes us different as academicians as compared to other education areas where we talk about. And I very strongly believe that design education is constantly evolving and redefining. So when it's evolving and redefining, which will help to grow and redefine the world along with it as the part of the design education. So I think when it is evolving and we get a chance to redefine that, this will be a very good platform where educators from different parts of the world, we are sharing our point of view, and we are coming up to some points where we can work on. And I'm sure, as Isabel has also shared the work of her students, which covers almost all the areas of fashion design program. I mean, different courses which we teach. And I always feel that there's a lot of multitude to the courses, or in common language, if I say it's a buffet of courses which all the institutes are offering to the students and giving them a choice to pick what they want in their plate. And it's their choice and interest. But as some of the core courses, the curriculum which is based on, I feel still there is a lot, like, are we focusing on professional course, making them more professionals? Is it more vocational? We are also teaching them to be entrepreneurs. Creativity, obviously, it starts with design, research, which is linked, again, we can connect it to different areas. Craft, which is very close. I work a lot on the craft sector. Innovation and technology, sustainability, sociology, what the industry needs, what are the management areas. So I personally feel that there's still a lot which we are offering, and where to go in depth, which area we should focus. And I mean, every aspect is important, and every aspect has got a lot of depth to it, as when we have to deliver it to the students, and till what depth we should go in that particular subject. And in the past, I think 20 to 30 years being in the academic field, we would all realize that there are a lot of master's courses which are offered by different institutes across the world. So we can call that, earlier it was like, it is very different from the design education, what we have done in our times and what we are delivering currently. And as a postgraduate programs, there are a lot of specialized areas, like, which can be fashion plus X, is like the X factor. It's fashion journalism, fashion PR, fashion styling, photography, management. And one of the challenge which I feel in design education is many institutes across the globe, for their master's program, they are offering it is offered to a non-design graduate and a design graduate also. So when a non-design graduate is coming to us and we compare it with a design graduate for a master's and a specialized program, it's, I think, quite challenging to teach a student about fashion styling who's not got a background of fashion at an undergraduate program. I think I leave that question for my panel members. Maybe we can have a discussion on that, and maybe we can share ideas. But for me, I find it challenging to train students at a master level program who come with the non-design background to a specialized area. So now, as educators, the challenge of design education should match the employer or the industry needs. As keeping that also in mind, design education should fulfill the deeper social motivation and justification to society and environment. The pedagogy which we follow, the deliverables, should support the environment, which is the need for the hour, and which I feel is the biggest challenge. How are we going to achieve that is mass training according to conscious norms. So the students who are the next generation who's going to build up the fashion industry as a whole, maybe from textiles to fashion design, production, apparel. So at a global platform, like we are all here from different parts of the world, and if we share the same thought and we are training the students towards more conscious professionals, and when they're going to the industry at a global level, so that is, I think, going to make an impact on when we say the goal towards sustainability or more healthy or green environment. And this should not be with, I would say, it is not just a course, 1 or 2 courses, like we are teaching them design sustainability during their program, but it has to be connected and linked with each and every course, each and every brief, and the deliverables should be towards the sustainability goal as a complete course or as a complete program, not just 1 or 2 courses in introducing them and teaching them or taking them through the sustainability goals of UNICEF or other aspects of it. Anyway, sustainability towards fashion in itself is very complex, if we say, because it's very vast, which is related to environment, economy, as well as aesthetics. We have to keep in mind the culture, different cultures, design and society, what we teach, and everything as the star connects towards the sustainable fashion, which in itself is a very broad and a very deep subject and a topic. And the challenge of how to achieve that with the graduate attributes, you can say, which we are expecting a graduate to have when they complete the degree program. This, if we are able to achieve as educators, if we are able to achieve this or overcome this challenge, this can be considered as an educational revolution, I would say. Revolution in fashion through education system which support the environment, necessary to produce the right kind of graduates for the future. And this can be achieved through probably sustainable approach, maybe through more collaborations when we are all talking, we are sharing our views, and we can share the practices which we are sharing with our students, more of internationalizations and fashion discourse. So I just end my presentation with design creates culture, culture shapes value, and value determines the future. And the future is that we need to be responsible, and we need to teach our students, the next generation, to be more responsible towards the environment and the practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Giovanni Conti from Italy, from Milan.
Yes, thank you everyone to be here, and thank you Isabel and all the organization to invite me.
Right.
I'm Giovanni Conti. I'm associate professor in design in the Department of Design at Politecnico di Milano, and today I'm here like director of the Master in Product Sustainability Management by Milano Fashion Institute Consortium. But before to discuss about our master, I'd like to show you how we built in this last 3 years our masters starting from the past, and from this kind of nice video that seems just an entertaining YouTube thing makes us reflect on the fact that fashion is not just synonymous with clothes or accessories, but is an important part of the evolution of the culture of a given context, and is a complex for us field of research where innovation could be made and investigated in many ways. We are talking about what is sustainability and how it's possible to combine sustainability with fashion, because what is this sustainability, and overall how it's impacting and redesigning the fashion sector in this moment overall after the pandemic. That foster development able to ensure the needs fulfillment of the present generation without compromising the possibility for future generation to realize their own. We know that sustainability is environmental and economic science, and the impact of it go to environment, economic, society, and culture. And of course, we know that environmental sustainability is the attention to the care of the environment, trying to reduce the human impact on the nature. Social sustainability is based for the sustainable development, and social sustainability is the ability to ensure human welfare condition and so on. But of course, is also add the concept of cultural sustainability, where the process to be pursued is the re-education of people, of consumers. This is also responsibility of designers. And the two most important pillars where we find in the Fashion Pact signed in 2019 is also focused on re-education. The consumer understand that if we want things to be done more responsibly and consciously, we try to talk about the production, about the product, and of course about the consumption of this kind of problem. As a designers, as researchers, as a professor, need to rethink what we design and put on the market. For example, removing the embedded obsolescence that come from a model up of products focused on current trends, doing that as a responsible business, but also by controlling consumers' demand. Not only in the selection of recycled material, for example, but in the design of how materials can be separated and reused, and at the end of the product life, including packaging, task, display, wrapping, and so on. But probably in my point of view, it's more important to think about this kind of transition from egocentric people to ecocentric vision, policies, and practice. According with Alexandro Laszlo, we find interesting the concept of systemic sustainability, that is a process of development, individual, organizational, or societal, involving and adaptive strategy of emergence that ensure the evolutionary maintenance of an increasingly robust and supportive environment. Of course, for the first time in 2020, sustainability topped the list of the biggest challenge facing in the industry, and it was also named the biggest opportunity. So after this kind of very quickly, first our think, we accordingly with the European Skills Agenda of the European Commission, when we discuss about a new program like our Masters in Product Sustainability Masters, it's important to understand how it's possible to increase the quality and relevance of skill training, make skill and qualification more visible and comparable, and how it's possible to improve the analysis of the skill needs and related information to enhance the professional choice. So after that, we have the product sustainability management program that is in collaboration with Italian company. This is the main homepage of our consortium. Milano Fashion Institute was founded in 2007 among Politecnico di Milano, Bocconi University, Economic University, and Cattolica University, because it was important to create a place where it's possible to discuss about with a master program about what is today fashion in different kind of way. So this is our main courses. We have 5 university masters for fashion direction, brand and product management, brand and communication management, brand and business management, product sustainability management, lifestyle management, design, beauty, and event. But about master in fashion direction, product sustainability management, the approach here focus on how sustainability in all its aspects is radically changing the way of operating on fashion company, and what are the consequences in terms of knowledge and skill necessary for the training of managers of the future. The model is based on the learning agility practice, that is the ability and then bent to learn from one's own experience and results of others. It is capacity to put teaching into practice so as to rapidly improve one's own performance. So students are accompanied in the analysis of their skills through learning agility tests, and then they are trained to define the better oriented the search for internship offer and others. So that's the main program, where in the black part we found the common courses to the 5 masters about on fashion pillars, but then in the red one we have the specialized courses focused on, of course, how it's possible to understand how sustainability is changing the paradigm of fashion today. So, for example, supply chain is about transparency, traceability, audits, control, cost and risk, digital tools, fiber as materials with all the phases of the supply chain, chemical intervention of the manufacturer and so on, the LSC life cycle assessment tool and regulation through the lens observatory that we have in Politecnico, use of the 16 measurement tools about LCA for assessing the risk of environmental impact and the life cycle of product. So the issue of sustainability in fashion has been at the center of the world discussion for several years, but only a few years ago it became truly political debate and above all a necessary point of reflection for company. Just to finish, I want to finish with Ursula de Castro's sentences where that she said, "I'm prepared to keep and maintain my clothes because my care for them is symbolic of my respect for the people who made them and the natural resources of which they were made." So thank you very much, and I'm here to participate with our debate.
Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you for all of you. It was very interesting. All the presentation was very interesting, and we can see how different, how multitude meanings of sustainability function in our world, and it's connected with fashion. As one of the philosopher, I don't remember who, said that sustainability is not technical tools. It's not about technical tools. It's about the way of thinking, a way exactly. of understanding what happens in our world. And I would like to ask you the first question. I mean, it could be important, and it's important for me. It could be important from your presentation. It's about future or today relationship between university with fashion courses, or the fashion courses in universities, and industry, because that's I think that industry is the field where unsustainability has happened, during this history process, and university, as one of you said, it's the word university is connected with the universe. It's not a part of something. Yeah, it's about universe. It's about everything. I remember that Bill Readings in such a book like The University in the Ruin in the 90s, 20th century, said that the university comes in a very dangerous way. And its dangerous way is that it's too much connected with the industry, and that universities start to produce knowledge, laborers for industry, and the main aim of university is to answer for the industry expectation. And from the different point of view, university used to be autonomic fields, used to be free for research, for experimentation, and the dangerous way about Bill Readings was written is that when the university answer for the expectation of industry, the university build the system, and maybe university should change the system, should find the way how to cross the borders. But of course, it sounds easy when we are talking about ideas, but not sounds easy when we are talking about money, about financial system, and so on. So, should be in the future fashion departments in university more separate from industry in order to change the industry, or should they more more cooperation with industry, and in this cooperation fight for autonomy, or maybe industry at all it's not a dangerous for university. How is your point of view in these relationships?
In my point of view, in my experience in Politecnico, industry are not a problem. We have a lot collaboration with different kind of industry. In my studio lab, I'm the coordinator of the Textile and Knitwear studio lab in School of Design. All our experience with our students are in collaboration with industry, because it's important that the guys, the people understand how is what it means to work with a brief, with the timing, with all the characteristics that a company can bring to us and share with us. And of course, for us, it's very important, because it's important, like a public university. Politecnico is a big university, but is recognized in the world probably because it was founded like engineering university and school of engineering university. And it's important that the company understood how the university can work with the young professional in the future, and how it's possible to share different method in this kind of collaboration. So for me, it's a very interesting collaboration. Also, in our master, we have the Italian fashion chamber like main partner, Camera Nazionale della Moda Italiana, and was very important to collaborate with them, because during all our master, they involved in our faculty the CSR manager, the HR manager from directly the different Italian brand, and they can share knowledge with our students, and the students understood, I hope, how it's possible to work in a real life, in a real company today. So for me, it's very, very important, this collaboration.
Yeah, thank you. And you don't see any dangers from this collaboration, that the students start to think from the very beginning about the way the industry is working. And
no, of course, also in our sorry, Lynda, just to answer, and then I leave you the stage. Of course, also in our studio lab, the students start with a brief, but they can start with very, very freely, just to think about the brief, about all the which is their point of view about this kind of brief, of course, and then during the different reviews, we involve the company just to give a sort of way to our students, but of course they are freely to design what they want, of course.
Yeah, Lynda, you would like to?
Yeah, it's slightly so just from Italy, of course, is a fashion center, and beautiful clothing and textiles come from Italy, and I can imagine that the connection, and it's also, or maybe up until recently, very, very local, very proud of local production, so much potential there. For me, with a particular, or for our course, with a particular focus on sustainability, having an industry focus from the beginning, when it's an industry that is utterly dependent on selling more stuff and on growth year after year, it would make the opportunities for experimentation and bringing to life other ways of being and thinking too narrow from the beginning. So what I feel very strongly about is that we need to amplify the experimental areas within fashion education and be experimenting specifically into fashion ideas that help companies to wean themselves off this dependency of producing more stuff to be in business. So it's not to disconnect from them, but to example these other ways that are frankly too risky for companies to even consider because they're so dependent on selling stuff. And so there are some entrepreneurs that do come up with other ideas that are de-linking from that dependency, seeking out those entrepreneurial business, linking with them, understanding the new knowledge that they're generating. That, I think, has a lot of potential. But I feel really strongly that we need to be experimenting, like I said, on degrowth and post-growth models. I think the business is having a really hard time imagining beyond where they are right now. And where we are, like I said in the presentation, we're falling behind in actual ecological gains because of companies' dependency on growth of sales. So,
yeah, thank you. I think about your presentation, Lynda, also about these two words, degrowth and post-growth, you use on the end of your presentation, and you use also very often this word experimental. That I understand that the in education, especially education, experimental is basic. Yeah, in your point of view, the experimentation with ideas. You used such a phrase like experimentation with ideas. But could you think that we as a university program and the students could have any serious impact to degrowth of post-growth economy? So, because I think that this is the words coming from ideas, not from the economy practice. I, as a matter of fact, I don't see that the business is practicing and would like to practicing degrowth or post-growth economy.
Well,
could you see that we as a university, our students, we in our research could have any real impact, input in this to learn post-growth and degrowth thinking?
Yeah, I think it's our role. I think it's a really important role to take on, and of course, I want to open it up to other opinions too from different perspectives from different countries. But it's the time to experiment, and businesses that really understand that we have to have systemic change, understand that experimentation. I mean, like whether it's storms because of climate change or whether it's COVID or whatever it is, companies are having to, what do we do now? What do we do now? And they need students who have that elastic thinking. And it's beyond where business is now. I mean, things are coming at us, very fast. Mm-hmm. So even though it's in a educational setting and not a business setting, the thinking is directly applicable to real life situations in companies. So yes.
I totally agree with Lynda, because last year, for example, I had a workshop with a spinning company, and they came in Politecnico, and the first question was, can help us to communicate to our clients our sustainable collection of yarn. and was very, very, very strange because because they are the most important yarn producer here in Italy, with all certificated and all sustainable collection of yarn. They are recognized in the market because they are a supplier for different trade, for different company. But the problem was for them to communicate after the pandemic, after this kind of time, how to increase the idea of sustainability for them and for their product to the final consumer. So I totally agree with Lynda, because it is a very interesting moment for as a designer, as a professor, where it's possible to experiment and involve the company with our experimentation if they are open.
Yeah. Isabel, Koshalpreet, how it looks from India or Brazil point of view, this problem, or it's not a problem, maybe in Italy.
No, it is. I think it also depends on the economic status of the country. I mean, because apparel fashion is the second most biggest industry in the world next to oil. And because as to add to what Giovanni and Lynda is saying, I believe it should be a balance. We can't just keep working in the university research and doing experimentation. Like for our program, we have a final year student. In the last year, they do an industry project. So they've done the experimentation also, and then they're going in the industry, seeing the needs. And if we talk about the classroom projects, we also encourage a lot of classroom projects from the industry. So I believe that if a student, it is given an open brief to the student, and we are supporting and directing them towards sustainability, and that idea, what they create, is really liked by the industry. So it's directly going there. And maybe we are one step ahead for industry to adopt our ideas or our students' ideas, which is one step towards the sustainability. So I believe it should go parallel, the industry, the education, it has to go parallelly together. And that's what I think about this.
Yeah.
Well, I will contribute to the discussion first saying I will start with something Lynda said on her presentation with her graphics. Like, the student comes to school because he or she likes fashion, but not exactly thinking of sustainability. So, and I see that because they have, and something that Gio said too, we have to care what we put in the market, but also the image we put in the market. So the student comes with an image of the industry, very strong image, and they want to do beautiful collections. And then we say, why? What's beautiful? What's beautiful about that? Is it the work, like slavery kind of work behind it? Or, so when we start proposing questions to the students to reflect on what they are thinking, they get frustrated. It's like, oh, I came here to do a fashion collection and I have to think of sustainability. So I think it's related, but I do believe that it has to go side to side. But if the student is doing what the industry is asking for, he's not proposing. So I believe that classroom is a very, very important experimental place. They have to go deep, because we want them to get jobs, paid jobs, to work and maintain their economical family sustainability. But they can adjust. If they can think, they can adjust to whatever the company they're going to work are doing. So, and they can propose, if they're going to be able to change, I think, small steps, because of course the companies wants to sell, because that's what they live from, so that's my kind of thinking. And I think Yeah, so I believe that we need the industry, but we have to show them one or two things and, convince them that they can actually make a change.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, let's have a look to the question from the chat. Maybe I think about this fragment. I appreciate the development of specialized courses or masters on fashion sustainability, but should not sustainability be incorporated into all the aspects sought? Is the first question. And continue. Industry does have no influence, but if consumers are not aware of the impact when they are shopping, they will keep buying more and more. This is like energy. What should be done into these two important sides, offer and demand? You have this question also on your screen, I think, or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe because it's interesting, maybe we try to discuss these problems. Like consumers and
in my experience in this last year in the masters, of course, all the aspects on sustainability are very important, and students ask us to discuss about all the different aspects, because of course, probably because in Polytechnical we are we have a very technical approach, but of course it's important to discuss. For example, in my faculty we involved Marina Spadafora. Marina Spadafora here in Italy is the ambassador of Fashion Revolution, and she talk and bring to us all the ideas about responsible fashion, how it's possible to consider a very important pillar, the responsible fashion, and the respect of the people that produce or create something that we can find in the shop. Another kind of interesting position was from I can't say the name of the Italian brand, but after the declaration of the CSR manager of this important Italian brand that said, yes, we have a CSR department, but in this moment we change just the sheet of the bag, but then we don't know what we can do with the sustainable point of view. So was very strange, but it's the real picture that we have in this moment in our society. They can't in different kind of them. They don't know what they can work with a sustainability point of view, because they can probably thought that the sustainability is a trend, but it's not a trend. It's a way of to design something. It's the approach of a designer can use for product and sell and consume and reuse some products. So I totally agree about this kind of a question about, yes, we know we try to understand all the process about this issue.
Yeah, and could you think that there is any possibility to making common field between consumerism and sustainability? Because of course today the consumerism has a lot of critics, but as we know in the classical economy, the consumerism has also a good the good side, like labor market, like economical growth. We said that today we agree that growth is not most important for a lot of us, but not for for economical mainstream, and that there is connected, consumerism is connected in the feeling of success, is the feeling of happiness. So is it any possibility to not to put the peace between sustainability and consumerism? Lynda, Isabel, Koshalpreet.
No, definitely it is. And I was just going through Lynda's write-up that dominant language on sustainability comes from brands. In my opinion, I think as the main designers, the luxury brands also, if they, like many of the designers, there are 32 companies who have signed the Fashion Pact, the agreement for sustainability.
Yeah.
So if it is adopted by the luxury brands, and then what we do as a fashion theory, we say it's a trickle down theory. So from the major luxury brands, it will come down to other brands, the smaller brands or labels, you can say, the approach towards sustainability, and which would, I think, make a difference in the market, especially in the production for maybe apparel or for the accessories.
Yeah.
On the other side, trickle up comes from the upcycling. It's coming from trickle up. It didn't start there. It's coming from society, and they are demanding more and more to a circular economy. And on the other question before, in the offer and demand, I wanted just to point that students are consumers. We are forming a new generation of consumers. So if we don't change the way they think in college, where are they going to change? You know, so I think it's really important on that way. Anyway, it's just a little.
I have on the chat a question from Joanna Monteiro. A question about social sustainability and inclusivity. We see fashion brands developing clothes for people with physical disabilities, sometimes with them, but we never see buy them, which I think is a problem of access to fashion universities to people with physical disabilities. How can we improve their access to fashion courses? And how can we communicate that they have their place in the industry? If we want change and make a difference in the industry, shouldn't we make them more inclusive? I think that it's important questions from the sustainability point of view also, because it's a question of sustainability, sustainability of fashion courses, of sustainability of fashion producing. Lynda? Could you?
Yeah, I really like the work, for example, of Lucy Jones, who came out of Parsons, especially her early work. And it's important. And again, it's almost, you can almost, I mean this as a real thing and also as a metaphor for what we're trying to say about growth. So if you imagine, once we started talking, once they started coming up to the surface about other abled people and how they're not served through the conventional fashion industry, you start to realize how narrow the traditional fashion industry is. And I remember sort of becoming aware, like things unfold and you become aware. I was in Times Square in New York, for example, with all these flashing lights. And it was really, you know, it was really shocking. I was like, oh, if I was an epileptic, if I had epilepsy, I could not come to Times Square because it would trigger something, you know, it would trigger a seizure. And yet that whole area has been built around, you know, then you start to think about, well, the whole world has been built around not taking this into consideration. And what would the world look like if that was taken into consideration? And would we use LEDs the way that we do? We would build the world, we would build Times Square differently. And it's the same for products and it's the same for our businesses. That once you start thinking about whether it's other abled people and what their needs are, or the need of society and the planet in slowing this flow of resources through the system and the different mentality that's needed for that, there's other worlds that can be built. Clearly, there are. And you know, we need to give them some form and sort of lurch into these new worlds and test things out and refine them and eventually adopt them. You know, that's just the way it is. So yes, it's a good question. And it's an important part of fashion sustainability.
Yeah. Koshalpreet, how it looks, this inclusivity problem looks in your country and in your school, maybe?
Sorry? You asked Koshalpreet?
Yeah. Oh, okay. But Isabel, you can answer.
Just one word that I think it relates to Koshalpreet's situation too. At PUC, we do have like a lot of institutions, inside institutions to have the people with disabilities. But I think in Brazil, like in India, we have economical disability. So our first step is to include those who cannot afford a private school, a fashion education, that thinks that fashion is something that they never thought it was for them. But then they start to see fashion as a way of including themselves in their bodies in the society as a whole. And so we do have room for people with physical disabilities, but we have to, as we can deal with economical disabilities, we have more room to work on that. That's my personal point of view and what is happening in Rio now in PUC.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Coach, how could I interrupt?
Yeah, but it's very important item. Yeah.
So I think in India, we have very rich culture for crafts and heritage. And many of the crafts are dying, though government has their policies and associations. They're coming up. Designers are also helping, but still it needs a little more attention. And then I think this would be a good idea when we say, because a lot of family, since not too many people are inclined towards craft, so they are dying because nobody's buying as consumers. They're more into fast fashion. So the next generation, a craft which has been practiced from 3 or 4 generations, the new generation doesn't want to continue it anymore because the demand is not there or people are not aware of it. And I think it will be a great idea if the design institutes, they come up for the support for the children or the families who are already practicing, who are weavers, who are dyers and doing printing, who are from the design background, to bring them to the educational institute and give them a formal training so that at least they can carry on with their family tradition or family practice or a family craft. And crafts, as I always say, in India, different parts, we have different crafts for each region, and it is the sustainable approach because they are using natural fibers, they are using looms, which are not the hand looms. So all the complete process and the complete practice, if we say the small community, the whole village is practicing that one craft. So if I talk about Kanjivaram Sarees, it's in South India. This is a small town. The name of the sari is in itself a Kanjivaram Saree, and it is behind the name of a place. And if you visit that place, the whole community, the whole village is doing that. Somebody's doing weaving or spinning and yarn dyeing. But yes, slowly, few of the crafts which are not too popular, they are dying because the next generation doesn't want to do that. And if we bring that generation to the design education, I think that will also be a great step.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you. Someone else?
Fantastic.
During our discussion, but also at your presentation, we often have been using such a word like future. And there are some days another conference who will be devoted to the art and the design programs. And there's a main question of this conference is imagine future or rethinking past. What is the right way of the art the art school, Imagine Future or Rethinking Past. And it's connected me with the, after the 20, in this year, after the 20 years, we have the re-edition of the famous book of Tony Fry, The Futuring, a new philosophy of design. It's 20 years past, but this book is still very important and not historical books yet. And I was thinking about the futuring process, which is proposed by Tony Fry, who is like the construction in philosophy. You know that he said the future is not the empty space we can build what we want, but the future is coming from the past through the present by a design. Yeah, for example, and the future we designing today, we put something in the future with in the future. We are building the future, and the question of the Tony Fry is we should think about the past also, and asking the question, what does it mean unsustainability? How the past making a historical construction, unsustainability historical construction. So I would like to ask you a question about fashion education. Imagine future or rethinking the past.
I would say connecting both.
Both,
yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally agree, yeah.
But how it looks, what it would be rethinking the past in fashion education, and what it would be imagine future in fashion education, like what? So how do you understand these terms in the context of fashion education?
I have one example from a colleague mm-hmm. of mine, Greg Clymer, and it was one of those moments that I was just looked at him and I said, that was genius, you know, where things can just be so simple sometimes. So his expertise is creative pattern making. And I agree with what our panelists are saying, where, you know, sustainability needs to be integrated into all of the classes and not just be a single subject, but the very context of what we do. And the way that he does it as a creative pattern cutter, he has a simple conversation with the students as they're making clothing of why, for example, why do we teach, you know, the bodice and, you know, and the skirt and, you know, why do we teach this way, this, you know, and the students think about it. And of course, it's a European way, right? I mean, we teach tailoring, it's a European way. And the simple question, I was like, oh my God, why have I never asked this question? He says, what came before it? And the students go, it's like they've never even thought about it. They know where this comes from, but they haven't thought about what was before it. And he says, what displaced it before? What displaced that? And of course, now he's getting at colonialism and decolonizing at least the thinking and opening up, you know, the conversations and therefore the different ways that students can come towards creating form around the geometry of the body. So that's just one example. I'll just leave it there. Of questioning the past, right? And then bringing it into the future. Right?
Very inspiring. That's very inspiring. Thank you, Lynda.
Well, it wasn't mine. It was Greg Clymer. I just want to, you know, full credit to that particular faculty member. Yeah, not me.
And don't you think that we are too much thinking about future, that we are too believing that we could build the future, you know, that we could design the future, and so we not allowed the future people to make in this their own world. Don't you think about such an illusion of designing? Koshalpreet.
Yeah, I think with the COVID pandemic, which has crossed the globe, that has made people think, for all generations, from children to elders to our age, middle-aged people, that we need to all slow down on everything. I mean, from food to clothes to basic needs, we can say, from, we all have stayed at home with just the basic needs and cooking at home and wearing just the casual clothes and the needs, no shopping. So I think that has made world realize a little, I think so, with every aspect to, we can say, the future. So everybody's more thoughtful now. I mean, what we are talking of, the sustainable world and or conscious living. So it has made an impact on everybody, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Isabel?
In terms of the future, you have to have an idea what the world you imagine in terms to make it happen. It's like, oh, it's a topic. Yes, but otherwise you do nothing. You have to have a little aim there, trying to reach. And in terms of the past, I think Lynda said a bit about it too. It's like, it's rethinking and questioning. Is it really the past, or is it the past that was told us it was? Those is the colonizing concept. I was told that, but is it true? It was really what happened? Did African were really salvaged that had no technology when the Europeans got there? It's like, I believe this is really important to think the future.
But I don't remember who, but one of the design thinkers writes such a sentence in that when we are thinking about, for example, functionality during the designing process, we are thinking about functionality from our today point of view, and today's functionality couldn't be functional for the next generation at all. And he said we have no, but we are, during the designing process, we are sure that we find the functionality and it will be always function forever. That's like, and this is an example of I don't know how to say it, our violence for the future. That we still thinking that the future is for us, not for the new generation, new people, new words.
I've been liking to think the future as fiction.
Yes, it is a fiction.
We, watch scientific fiction films, movies, and you see that's imagine, the future, I think.
Yeah. But it's very often a question for designer, for fashion designer, the question about future. We are also treated as a person who can, I don't know how to say, to know more about future than others, and it's not true, I think so.
I have a good example and a bad example. So let's go with the bad one first. Well, bad. But in San Francisco in particular, well, maybe in other areas too, but with the entrepreneurial spirit and so on, there's what I call a bubbly euphoria about the future and about disruption. Like if it's the future and it's this and it could be that and we're going to disrupt this without necessarily thinking why. Like, is this disruption necessarily good? And what are we wanting to achieve? Or is it just more of the same, or another app, or whatever it is? Does it really have purpose, I guess, is what I'm saying. So that's one thing. It gets a little bit tiring, exhausting, I would say even. And then right now there's an exhibition at the Oakland Museum, and it's Afrofuturism. And I found it very powerful and moving, where they're imagining futures because the present for especially Black boys in America is so dire, and even with all the talk about systemic change, it's so hard to achieve. I think we're in the middle of it, But these Afrofutures it's like, well, forget it. Forget these people. They're not even considering us. We're going to imagine our own futures. And I was just like, well, of course. And it was a future that was like, oh, wow, I need to do more reading. I need to find out more about this. And, these people who write about these futures, and I need to do a whole genre of reading. It was, as a white woman, it was a whole other world in a good way. I felt my cage was rattled in a good way, So anyway, there's two different examples of potential, futures. Right.
Thank you. In the meantime, I found a very specific question. So I on the chat. So I will read it. Sari is just one drop in India. It has also a symbolic meaning. Could it be a sustainable example?
As I would say, Isabella, you have just pointed out my favorite topic. And yes, I think Giovanni can relate to it. It is completely sustainable, I would say, in India especially, and as a symbolic meaning or tradition. So what we say as fashion restoration, what is happening with major brands. So in India, it's been an old practice that the sari for the wedding or something, it is passed on to the next generation. So it's a cultural symbol, and it is a beautiful way of sustainability because you're preserving the fabric, the garment, or you can say the fabric piece. And it's just that is just from the cultural point of view, when we are preserving that textile piece. If we look at the production also, it is just a simple 5.5 meter fabric. So it can be draped in more than 100 ways. So if we talk about the apparel manufacturing also, there's no cutting, there's no wastage of the fabric which is coming out of the apparel manufacturing unit and which is dumping the yard. So you just have to drape it and it is on. I mean, I always wear a sari. I think Giovanni can relate to it whenever it's, that's one of my favorite.
Exactly. I totally agree with Koshalpreet because, of course, I work a lot in India. I finished my PhD in India, in Bangalore, in 2006. And it is an example where it's a cultural question, it's a cultural issue, an important cultural issue because describe that kind of culture, the kind of people, and is the answer about rethink the past. In this case, rethink the past has to preserve in the future this kind of past. So that's the question. That's the point.
The point, yeah.
And just to add to Giovanni, again, coming back to the sustainability as a sari, I think across the globe, it's not only India. History is one of my strength subjects because I've done my PhD in history of costumes. So it's basic drape, and drapes have been in the history in all parts of the world, like not in India, Roman, Greek. We have been studying in fashion history precisely, and if the drapes are adopted like in today's fashion, or we say they're inspired, so for the future designs which are coming in fashion or by other students, I think it is going to make a major impact on the wastage which is especially coming out of the apparel manufacturing unit, the fabrics which are left after cutting. So that's like 20%, 15%. We are trying more techniques to reduce that. We are trying new techniques of pattern making so that the wastage is less. If we shift to drapes, the new trend or the fashion, it is going to impact. I mean, it's going to have a very positive impact on the sustainability in the fashion industry.
Yeah, because
I also have a paper published where I'm talking about sari, how it has evolved, and it has got a influence from different cultures. And some of the many popular designers from Chanel to Hermes to Alexander McQueen have developed a fashion collection which is inspired by sari. And there are economic reasons behind that. Mm-hmm. How it is connected with the economy. I mean, if Hermes is launching their store in India just before Diwali, which is like a main festival in India, and the collection was inspired by the drapes and the sari, and how it is connected globally. Designers are getting inspired by this beautiful garment, I would say.
Yeah, but because here in Europe during the medieval era,
Yes.
someone in Spain invented the button, the maspillo, and we changed completely the way of dress up something.
Draping.
And we changed completely from the drape to the fitted. So
yes.
That's the reason why here in Europe, and then of course in the West, in the other part of the world, change completely the way of dress up something.
There is a little change which is coming in India in past, I would say 4-5 years. There are many new designers, upcoming designers, who are promoting sari, who are supporting the weavers. So I think in the future, if people continue, the young designers, they continue this practice, it is going to lead to the sustainable way.
Yeah.
There is one another maybe last question, because we have last few minutes, about sustainability. Tony Fry mentioned, the author of this, the Futuring book I mentioned before, say that sustainability for him means ability to sustain. And that is a important question, how to sustain what we need to be sustained. And I would like to ask you about this understanding of sustainability, what we need to sustain in fashion, in context of fashion and in context of fashion education, but in context of universe. Yeah, what we need to be, because we are still, but the words still are talking about changes, you know, the new things, new vision, what we need to sustain, and how we will ability of sustain these things.
So yeah, I would say that what we're trying to sustain is a healthy planet, right? And so the challenge is to have all of our creativity and beauty that we have with fashion and messaging to each other, you know, our material culture within natural constraints, right? And so, you know, it's quite simple, but, you know, all of our metrics, which I will say have been developed over the last 30 years and did not exist before then in terms of measuring sustainability, all the different indexes we have that are quote unquote sustainable, none of them actually connect to the real time capacities of Earth to provide materials and process our waste. So we have a lot of work to do, but that's what we're trying to sustain. And once we accept that that's what we're trying to sustain, those living systems, once we accept that, there's all kinds of creativity. I mean, we've heard all the different aspects of our different courses, and this is just 5 of us, you know. There's millions of ideas of, you know, to create all kinds of fashion experiences within those constraints. Million. It's such a creative area. It's wide open, very exciting. So,
thank you, Giovanni. Because I try to ask this question. I will ask this question for every person. So, how it's your point of view? What we need to sustain?
Hey, it's not simple to answer about these questions. For me, it's important to sustain as a professor, is I feel the responsibility as a professor for young generation, because in Italy, for example, we are living with a very, it's a very this kind of change of paradigm in fashion system. We can feel, we can see it. In Milano are closing, for example, some different fast fashion brands, and are totally different the approach of this kind of profession, the fashion design profession. So for me, it's important to sustain probably the young generation, my students probably. I feel this responsibility in my mind, in my point of view. So I think probably is not a very smart answer, but I feel this very strong.
Mm-hmm. We have important comments from Kirsi. Are we trying to sustain ecosystems or lifestyles? But Isabel, what do you think about? What do you want to? What do you need to be sustained in?
My first answer, I put it as a question. That is life. Life in general. But I like very much Kirsi's comment that she's like sustain ecosystems or lifestyles. And I would answer lifestyles that respect ecosystems, because you don't want to be one equal all over the world. We have different ecosystems, and we have to know how to work on locality. So I think preserve locality is important against, regular one way of thinking. So I think my answer would be lifestyles that respect ecosystem. That's what we have to maintain.
Mm-hmm. Koshalpreet?
The people.
Oh, pardon.
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. The same thing was coming in my mind. We need to have a lifestyle which is supporting the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to sustain with respect to India, I would say we need to sustain our traditions, the traditional practices which are related to apparel and textiles and fashion, or design, maybe it's even with products and everything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add as well, when in a panel to set up these binaries, of course, it's provocative. And it get, as you clearly from today, we're all animated and everybody's talking and stuff, which is great. And then I think we need to be really cautious and call it out when business as usual does that, because they're really false binaries. It's great to provoke a discussion, but of course we can have many life cycles. Lifestyles.
Lifestyle.
Within the natural constraints, and with a thriving ecosystem, of course. We just need to apply all of our creative energies towards that. And I've got infinite trust in our creative potentials, once we focus on the right things. So, but anyway, just to say, call it out when we hear it to justify business as normal.
Isabel, Giovanni, Lynda, Koshalpreet, I could listen to you next 2 hours because it's very, very interesting point of view and participant of discussion. Thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you. Thank you for Global Conference, and I hope that we could discuss another things in the future. So that's my my vision and my imagine and dreaming about future. Thank you so much. Thank you for every one who participate in this panel as a viewer, as a participant in chat, and good night, I can say in Poland. I don't know how it is.